Azeroth alpha coverage by looking at one of the available dungeons for testing right now, which is the Golden Troll themed temple of Atal dazar.
Yes, this is a 4-boss dungeon located in the Atal dazar Horde leveling zone. The instance itself is very open in terms of your route, as you get to choose the order in which you take on the first 3 bosses, and after these have been defeated, you can then progress up to the last boss. So zoning into the instance, moving down the first set of stairs, you are given a choice in path. You can either go left or right to either of the bosses on the side, as well as move towards a middle section that is above the 3rd boss. Now going towards this middle section first does seem like a bad idea, because although it does connect the entire instance together, from the very beginning, if you haven't killed either the left or the right hand boss, the actual paths that connect everything are all shut off. So yeah, it seems a little bit pointless going to the middle straight away, so we decided to go off towards the left.
Now as you make your way round towards the left hand side boss, you'll have to fight through packs of trolls. Most of the trash is fairly simple. You'll have augurs which deal nasty bursts of damage to the group, as well as apply dots to players with their wildfire casts. The confessors will try to heal other trash with their mending words, and the juggernauts will enrage, which increases their damage, whilst they also charge towards ranged players. The most powerful enemy in all of this trash you'll fight is the Colossus. Although its only ability will cause it to channel a beam into a player which just deals a bit of ticking damage and slows them, it's mainly its passive which is dangerous. Each time a trash mob dies, the Colossus will gain 25% of its health back, while also gaining a 25% damage increase, but this damage increase can be dispelled. So when pulling any trash while you have the Colossus within it, you need to make sure you kill him first, otherwise he's just going to keep healing himself.
But once you've cleared most of that trash, you'll get to the area with the first boss, Priestess Alunza. After clearing out all of the random garbage that's around her, you can safely start the fight. Now the main mechanic of this boss revolves around these tainted blood pools which will frequently spawn around the room. You'll need to use these pools to counteract her transfusion ability. When she casts this will deal damage to all players over 5 seconds whilst also healing her. However, if a player runs into a tainted blood pool before this transfusion cast goes off, this will instead cause the boss to take damage rather than receive any healing, and the only thing the player has to pay for this is the fact that their blood's a bit tainted and they receive a dot for 18 seconds, which is definitely worth it. You can tell that you've actually done this correctly because instead of the beam going from you to the boss being this holy light color, it's this sickly blood color, which is absolutely awesome. So yeah, make sure that all the beams are red so the boss is taking the most damage possible. Aside from this, you'll just debuff players with molten gold, which is a 30-second long dispellable dot, which, yeah, you should definitely dispel, and she'll also coat her hands with gilded claws, causing her melee attacks to deal extra damage. Strangely enough, for a 5-man boss, this can be dispelled off of her, meaning the tank will take a lot less damage if you have a purger in your group. But aside from making sure that you're tainted at the right times, there isn't too much going on with this boss.
After the priestess has died, you can finally go down the set of stairs which connects towards the middle of the instance. On either side of the staircase there are various voodoo style masks which take turns at spewing fire, which completely blocks your path. If you do decide to run in the fire, you will instantly die, so you definitely got to make sure that you keep an eye out for it as you move down the staircase. Once you reach the bottom of the stairs, you hit a lever which will allow you access to the middle of the instance. At the same time, this will also lower the gate mirrored on the right hand side of the instance, which will allow you to get to the boss on the right hand side of the instance a lot faster. But before you can access that side of the instance, you do need to clear the trash in the middle. This trash consists mainly of small baby raptors which just jump around dealing small amount of damage to random targets. We found it was best just to stack up on these mobs just so they died quicker. You'll also have big bird dinosaurs that have an interruptible group-wide 5-second long fear. If you pull multiple ones of these and you're not ready to interrupt, you're just going to be chain feared until you die, so you need to make sure you're shit hot on them. On the middle platform you'll also fight 2 more dinosaurs that frequently charge towards a player. This just deals damage to anyone in the path, but both these dinosaurs also have a keeper which casts Dynamite. This is an interruptible cast again that will apply a dispellable buff to one of her pets that simply just heals them over time, so if you did mess up on the interrupt, you can instead just dispel it. Once you've cleared the middle section and you're moving towards the right hand set of stairs, you'll fight a couple of skeletal shield bearers and some witch doctors. The shield bearers will cast a bubble which reduces the damage the mobs take by 90%. This right now isn't interruptible, and the mob is immune to most forms of CC while casting this. The only things that we found effective were stuns, so you just need to make sure that you're really good at landing them as soon as they start their cast. However, you can move mobs out of these bubbles and the effect will be negated. As for the witch doctors, they're kind of annoying. They constantly apply curse that polymorphs the player, and the really cool thing about this polymorph is that it also applies a targeting circle to you. When the debuff times out, you'll then bounce the debuff to any player that is still within your circle. So as soon as you receive the debuff, you need to make sure you move away from other people, or you decurse it off a player when they're near no one else. With these particular trash mobs, you'll also have stalkers that will attack you from stealth. These guys do extra damage with their auto attacks, so it's vital that your tanks pick them up quickly, otherwise you're definitely going to have a dead healer or DPS. Apart from those guys, you can just head up the stairs and go straight towards the boss on the right hand side of the instance. However, if you decide to go towards the right hand side of the instance first, right as you zoned in, you'll instead have to deal with reanimated honor guards. These guys are always coupled with a totem that just channels into them, slowly giving them health. You need to make sure that you kill these totems before you start killing off the guard. While the guards are up, all they do is ticking damage to nearby players, and the healer just needs to simply out-heal this. Once a guard is dead, as a last-ditch effort, they'll leave a patch on the ground which explodes, dealing a burst of damage and applying a nasty dot to anyone that was stood within it. So you really need to watch out as a melee player. As soon as these guards are dead, get the hell away from the circle. Once you've managed to make your way through all of that trash, or you've simply just come from the center of the instance and gone up the stairs, you'll eventually make your way towards the next boss, which is Volcal.
Now this boss starts off with 3 totems channeling into him, healing him for 5% of his health every half second. So you need all DPS to focus on killing these totems, whilst the tank just makes sure they keep threat on the boss. During this time, the boss will be frequently jumping around the room, which deals a burst of damage and knocks back anyone who is within his landing location, so you simply need to move out of it. He will also channel Noxious Stench, which deals damage and applies a stacking disease dot on the entire group. You want to make sure that you interrupt this as soon as possible, just so you don't get into a situation where this becomes unhealable. Once you've managed to kill off all 3 totems, the boss will gain Rapid Decay. This buffs his damage by 25%, whilst also dealing a small amount of ticking damage to the boss. During this last part of the fight, he will also be spawning a bunch of toxic pools that deal a ton of ticking damage to anyone who stands in them. You need to make sure that you nuke him down whilst moving from his pools, whilst also, of course, interrupting his Noxious Stench. So it can get a little bit hectic as you're running out of space and there's of course goo everywhere, but you need to make sure that whilst you're moving the boss, you do not take him out of his little triangle arena area that you're in, as otherwise he will reset, which of course absolutely sucks because you're going to have to start the entire fight again. After killing this guy, you only have one more boss left who is underneath the platform in the middle of the instance. To get to this lower area, there are staircases going down on either side of the middle platform, which has some more of the dinosaur trash that you found earlier on in the instance. Once you're down here, you'll find the massive skeletal dinosaur, which is Rezar, who is patrolling around the room.
Rezar's room has a ton of bone piles scattered throughout. If you stand on these during the encounter, you will in fact spawn a skeletal raptor. These little guys do a fair amount of melee damage, so it's vital that your tank picks these up and doesn't just leave them on random players. These bone piles make the rest of the boss's abilities slightly more difficult to deal with. Rezar's most impactful ability is Terrifying Visage. This long cast will cause all players within line of sight to be feared for 6 seconds. Fortunately, there are structures that are holding up the platform above you, and you can use these to hide behind whenever the boss starts his cast. However, if you do accidentally get feared, the chance of you going into one of these raptor piles is extremely high, so tanks again need to watch out for feared players just in case. Additionally, Rezar will also occasionally cast Fixate on someone and begin to pursue them. If the boss catches the player he's chasing, he will devour them, which deals a nasty amount of damage over 8 seconds. The healer in your group needs to make sure they spam the player if they do get caught, as otherwise it's likely they're going to die pretty fast. The only other mechanic the guy has is that he'll be applying a nasty debuff to the tank, which causes them to take 30% more physical damage. With just the boss on you, this damage increase isn't a massive deal. However, if your group has decided to spawn 10 raptors, the tank's definitely going to have an issue. Once you manage to get the dinosaur down, you'll need to move back towards the middle platform and head towards the last boss. The waterfall that was previously blocking your path will begin to stop flowing, and the wall that it was cascading down will shift backwards and form a staircase. Moving up the staircase will lead you towards the last boss, but you need to be careful of the shadow spiders that are flowing down the stairs. Getting hit by one of these deals a nasty burst of damage and leaves a pool of goo on the ground, which deals even more damage to you and slows you. So yeah, dodge the spiders.
Once you do manage to make it to the top, you will then be fighting the last boss, Yasma. Now, aside from occasionally hitting the tank pretty hard with her skewer ability, Yasma has a couple of dangerous mechanics that rely on good positioning. At 100% energy, she will cast Soul Rend on a random non-tank player. This deals a burst of damage to them and causes them to spawn an ad at their location. This ad will then try and travel back to Yasma, and if it reaches her, it will place a really vicious permanent dot on the group, quickly leading to a wipe. So if you are targeted by this, you need to move far away from her so that you can CC and kill off the ad as soon as you possibly can. The other movement-based mechanic is the Echoes of Shadra spiders that phase in and out of the fight. These spiders work very much in the same way as the spiders that you were dealing with when you was going up the stairs. Just basically move away from them, otherwise you're going to spawn shit everywhere. That's really going to limit your movement, which kind of sucks when you need to run away from the boss. Lastly, she'll burst a player with Racking Pain. This is an interruptible cast which also leaves a curse dot on that player that the healer then needs to deal with. So yeah, dodge the spiders, move away with the Soul Rend, and kill the ad, whilst also interrupting or healing up the Racking Pain. And that's it. Once the boss is dead, the instance is complete. I have no idea why we're here, but hopefully everything's good in the world.